Hello, people. For those of you that don't know, my name is John Lewis, and you're listening to episode 9 of the Autism Athletics podcast. Today's topic is going to be the GOAT debate. You may ask yourself, what is the GOAT debate? First of all, GOAT stands for greatest of all time, and you can use that to argue many things, whether it be sports, movies, music, and a bunch of other things. But one of the most common debates when it comes to the GOAT debate is LeBron James versus Michael Jordan to determine who is the greatest basketball player of all time. Some people would say, hey, you can't debate these people. They played in different decades or eras, and they play slightly different positions. First of all, they are both wing players, shooting guard and small forward. Michael Jordan being the shooting guard and LeBron being the small forward. Second of all, you can debate them even though they played in different decades or eras. That's when it comes to the debate of which era is better. Is it Jordan when he played in the 80s, 90s, and a little bit in the 2000s, or is it LeBron when he played in the 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s? Some would say Jordan played in a better decade/era because you were allowed to be more physical on defense back then, and people tried just a little bit harder on defense, especially in the regular season. But some would say LeBron has played in a tougher decade because he has played in three different decades for a significant amount of time, and some would say that LeBron has played tougher competition in the NBA Finals. He played against the Warriors that went 73-9. He played against the Warriors that had Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson, one of the most stacked teams of all time. But some would say his path to getting to the NBA Finals wasn't as tough as Jordan's because Jordan played against the bad boy Pistons, which had like Drew Mars, Mark Aguirre, Isaiah Thomas, etc. And he even played against the Bird Celtics. So when you're debating eras, you're also debating like the level of competition and you're also debating the rules. I think that LeBron played in a slightly tougher era because if you look at today's basketball, there are so many teams. I think just about every team has a player that averages at least 20 points per game. And I know scoring isn't everything, but I just think there's just so much talent in today's basketball. And I think if you look at their specific positions, Michael Jordan being a shooting guard and LeBron a small forward, I think LeBron faced slightly tougher competition at his specific position. He's faced guys like Kawhi Leonard, Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Durant, and many more, including the likes of Jason Tatum, who's also been listed at small forward before. And some would argue, what is more important? Is it stats or is it championship? People say, oh, LeBron fans just want to argue stats, or Jordan fans want to argue championship. And I would say, hold on, but Jordan is the all-time leader in points per game in both the regular season and the playoffs, and holds the record for most points in a playoff game with 63 points. He's also one of the most efficient shooting guards ever, shooting a little over 49% from the field and 83% from the foul line. So you can argue stats with Michael Jordan. I wish people actually would argue more stats with Michael Jordan because you would be surprised at just how good his stats are. He also turns the ball over less than LeBron. Now, some would say LeBron's stats are better overall because he rebounds better and he assists better. And when you are busy passing the ball and assisting, it's hard to get more points. And he also averaged less points per game, but on 1,500 less shots. So you could argue who has the better stats. One shooting a little better from three on more attempts too, like 35% compared to like 32%, making a little over 1.5 threes a game compared to Jordan, who made less than 1 3 a game. Now, I know there wasn't as much three-point shooting back then, but still, Jordan was not a great three-point shooter. And LeBron shooting a little over 50% from the field, too, being slightly more efficient. So you could argue as to who had the better stats. LeBron also has more double-doubles and triple-doubles. But Jordan has more games where he scored 30 or more. He probably even has more games where he scored 20 or more. So it's actually a lot closer than you think when it comes to the statistics. The overall statistics, I probably give the edge to LeBron, but it's really, really close. And let's don't act like Jordan didn't put up great numbers because he absolutely did. Now, who played with better teammates? This is an argument that people use to either discredit or credit somebody's career. With better teammates say, oh, he had more help. He played with worse teammates, say, oh, he didn't have as much help and he carried weaker teams. So LeBron, his best teams, I would say, and best teammates, I would say, were better than Michael Jordan, playing with Anthony Davis and Dwayne Wade, who I think are probably both better than anyone Michael Jordan played with. Now, it's close. You want to argue Anthony Davis versus Scottie Pippen because Scottie Pippen is arguably the greatest perimeter and wing defender of all time, and he was never hurt much like Anthony Davis. But so it's close. But I would say Dwayne Wade's better than anybody that Michael Jordan played with. But if you look at LeBron James's teams from when he entered the league in 2003 until the time he joined the Miami Heat, and I want to say 2010 or 11, I want to say 2010, I don't think his teams were all that great. And he took the '07 Cavs to the finals, a team that had no business being in the NBA Finals. Now, who had the better accolades? So LeBron has made more All NBA appearances and more All Star appearances. Has more All Star and All NBA appearances than most players have seasons played, and that's also what makes his stats more impressive. The fact that he still averages 27 points per game for his career, or even with the fact that he's played for 21, 22 years, 22 seasons, and the fact that he's played at 40 years old. That also brings me to another topic. Had the better longevity. I would say LeBron James. He played in the league more, and I understand Michael Jordan played in college, but that doesn't matter because in the NBA, you're playing 82 seasons plus the playoffs. So it's more impressive to play more years in just the NBA, even if you're playing in the NBA and college. And he's playing till he was 40 years old. When Jordan was around this age, he was playing on the Washington Wizards. And while he did make the All Star game twice, I don't believe he was making the All NBA team. And I don't believe nearly as good or as impactful as LeBron James. Now, who had the better peak? I would say Michael Jordan probably had the better peak just because he averaged as many as 35 points per game, and he had some of the best runs in NBA history. Although LeBron in 2018 had one of the best peaks ever, especially when you look at the playoffs. And I can point to other years where LeBron had like super high peaks, but just of the incredible consistency for Michael Jordan and the clutchness and just his overall impact as both a scorer and a defender, I would say that Jordan had just a slightly better peak. That brings me to another thing about accolades that I forgot to mention. Jordan also has more all defensive team selections than LeBron James. Doesn't mean LeBron was a bad defender. No, he was actually a very good defender and underrated in my opinion. But Jordan is maybe the greatest defender at the shooting guard position probably in NBA history. So there are a lot of different ways you can debate. So championships. Jordan has 6 championships. LeBron only has 4. I say only because that's not as many as Michael Jordan, although that's still a lot. And people want to discredit LeBron championships. We won the bubble championship. That shouldn't count. Really? Because everybody had the same chance to win in a bubble, as every team in the league. And some would argue that that was a tougher championship because you didn't have that crowd to feed off of you and to bring you energy. And some people were probably just ready to get out of the bubble and go back to their families, but others wanted to stay in the bubble because it was a nice change of location after being in COVID. And it was just weird times that we had never seen before. And it was just a huge adjustment for all the players. So that's why, in some ways, you could argue it was the toughest championship. And that could be a whole nother topic of conversation. But I wouldn't discredit Bubble Championship or some people call it the Mickey Mouse Championship because all teams had the same chance to win. And in the end, whose team came out on top? LeBron's team. And people wanted to discredit his team. Oh, they haven't played well in the bubble to start and all that. Well, guess what? When it mattered the most, his team came out on top, not anybody else's. And Jordan, while he did win 6 championships, which is more than LeBron's 4, I do agree that he has the edge there, and he never even went to a Game 7 in the NBA Finals. Now, some would argue that he had an easier path in the NBA Finals than LeBron, and I agree. LeBron faced the 73-9 Warriors in 2016. He also faced one of the most loaded teams in NBA history. The Warriors, not only were they a 73-9 team, but then they went out and added Kevin Durant to that team. So they had Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. Not only is that 4 All-Stars, but 2 of them, and Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, are 2 of the best players in the league. You could argue that they were both top 5 players in the league, alongside having 2 other All-Stars. And then you had guys like Andre Iguodala coming off the bench, and they were coached by Steve Kerr, who I think, while he has had amazing teams, has done an excellent job for them as a coach, and probably right there with, if not better than LeBron's best coach, who I think was Eric Spoelstra. LeBron never had the opportunity to be coached by somebody like Phil Jackson, like Michael Jordan. But one of the problems with LeBron James' championship is that in 2011, when his team was the favorite, LeBron James did not play well and his team, quote unquote, choked or didn't live up to the hype, and it didn't even go to a Game 7. I'm pretty sure they were up 2-0 and lost in 6 games, but I could be totally wrong there. And so that's one of the knocks on LeBron's legacy. So in conclusion, when you look at stats, accolades, which are like awards, MVPs, All-Star appearances, All-NBA appearances, and all that, I tend to lean towards Michael Jordan just because he's got more championships. He does have great numbers, and he never choked in the NBA Finals. However, had LeBron not choked in the 2011 NBA Finals, I'd probably then give him the edge because even though he would still be behind him with 5 championships compared to 6, on one of those finals appearances, Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving got hurt, which I think made a huge difference in LeBron losing in that NBA Finals. And he would only be 1 championship behind Michael Jordan, but yet his longevity is better. He's got more All-Star and All-NBA appearances. And you could argue that when you look at the slight better efficiency from LeBron and the rebounds and the assists and just the all-around stats, you could make the case that his stats are better. And I don't think people are willing to admit that this topic of conversation is a lot closer than people are willing to admit. So I just want to say thank you for tuning into this episode, and please be on the lookout for more episodes. And you can get them on YouTube and Spotify. And I also have social media pages where I post some of my episodes there too. So thank you so much for tuning in. And please comment on this episode, as I love a good debate, even if you disagree with me, as long as we are civil and aren't doing name calling. I would love a good debate. This is one of the episodes where I really, really want people to comment below. So thank you so much. And please be on the lookout for more episodes.